Hello everyone and welcome to today's Microsoft Reactor livestream. Before we begin, a quick reminder about the Reactor Code of Conduct. We are committed to fostering a welcoming, inclusive, and supportive environment. Please let's keep the chat respectful and constructive throughout the session. Today's livestream is Crafting Custom AI Experiences, and I am delighted to introduce our fantastic speaker, Adrian Cabrera. Adrian holds a Master in Robotics from EPFL and an MBA from MIT. He started his career at BCG before founding Alpaca, a prop-tech startup backed by Lightspeed Venture Partners, which was acquired by Boom. Currently, he is the CEO of Mail Maestro, the most highly rated AI email assistant globally. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat throughout today's session. We'll address as many as we can. And don't worry if you miss anything, because the recording will be available on the Reactor YouTube channel. Without further ado, let's give a warm virtual round of applause to our incredible guest. Take it away, Adrian.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adrian, founder and CEO at Mail Maestro, and it's a huge pleasure to be here and get to share with the Microsoft Reactor community. We're big Microsoft fans, and I've actually built quite a lot of products on top of Microsoft. And we want to share a bit about like what has been the Mail Maestro story and how do we actually build on top of Microsoft and why that has been so important in our go-to-market strategy and the way that we serve the clients in a very different way than you would see um, anywhere else. So I'll start by giving you a bit of context in terms of what is Mail Maestro, why did we decide to tackle this specific space, and then why did we decide to build with on top of the Microsoft platform rather than building, let's say, our own website or our own client. So in a nutshell, like Mail Maestro is AI to make your emails more efficient. And so I'll quickly share a few uh, screens to a few slides just to share what the reason why we built it the way we did. So please, here I'm sharing my screen. Great. Can you guys see it? Perfect. So I think any type of business application or anything that you're building really should come with like a very clear pain point. And for us, that pain point was we noticed that during COVID and so on, like professionals are starting to burn out, and email was one of the key reasons, right? So it's like an overload of messages that you're getting and very hard to manage. And so we started looking into it. We did some market research, and what we saw is 46% of professionals are feeling burnt out nowadays. And actually, 68% of them said that email was one of the major causes why they felt so burned out, right? Like they said, you're getting notifications all day long. It's a lot of, it's like drinking from a fire hose sometimes. You just get so much inbound messaging and it's hard to keep up. And the next day, it just keeps on growing and growing, right? So some statistics are people tend to receive an average 120 emails a day, and are sending like 40 of them, which is huge. And that's only talking about email, right? So on top of that, you're receiving messages on Teams, on like WhatsApp, depending where you live, or an iMessage, and that really makes a huge difference in terms of like how much communication we're taking. Now, the challenge is that communication cannot go away, right? Because communication is really how businesses, let's say, make a difference, where decisions are taken, where ideas are being shared. And so what we're seeing as well is that if we look at like the Microsoft app ecosystem, right? So Teams, Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and so on. And there's a lot more, right? There's Loop, and Microsoft has been doing an amazing job at like just building that ecosystem of platforms. What we've seen is that there's a 60-40% split between communicating and creating, right? And so communication apps will be mostly Outlook and Teams, while creation apps will be things such as Excel, PowerPoint, and Word. And so that's why here at Master Labs, we've decided to focus on the communication aspect, because we see that it is a clear pain point, as we've seen with a lot of people burning out from so much of it. And second, that's where 60% of your time is being spent. And then like a very interesting fact for us was that only 85% of the emails are skimmed in less than 15 seconds, right? So people don't have, like they literally are just going through them to find what is important and what's not. So we looked at this data. We thought it was very interesting. It seemed to us as it was like a very interesting market to go after. And then we started to try to understand why now, or is this the right time to do it? And so on one side, we saw, okay, you can actually measure like the cost of email, and it is very expensive. So in average, people spend 2.6 hours a day on email, and looking at like average wages in the US, that ends up costing $20,000 a year for a business to have their people looking at their emails. The second is we're seeing a huge shift in the workplace towards AI, right? So AI has really become the new norm, with 76% of employees are using some type of AI at work, whether that is using ChatGPT, whether it's using Copilot, or Canva with some type of AI. There definitely is a shift in order to do this because the productivity gains are there. However, the third thing, which is something that is not always well addressed or kind of overlooked, unfortunately, is the strategic risks, right? So companies and enterprises really cannot afford to take the risk in terms of where their data is being hosted, what information is being shared with the AIs. If you're using a free version of AI, usually they will use it to train their data and so on. And so it goes against a lot of like corporate policies as well as GDPR and CPAA regulations, because if you want to do it properly, in theory, you should anonymize all of the information prior to using any type of AI in order to use it securely and without taking any risks. So those were the, let's say, key starting points for us when we were thinking about building something around emails in general, and knowing that there needs to be a very big focus on AI because that's where the world is going. We need to improve productivity because people are burning out. And third is we need to do it in a very secure manner. So we did more analysis. We really tried to understand like where should we play, because there are a lot of other, I would say, email clients, very good tools out there that have been doing this for a while. But what we've noticed is that there's a lot of people that are building, let's say, that are using email on Microsoft, specifically Outlook. And that ecosystem is a little bit less, let's say, there's less people building for it because I would say the barrier is a bit higher, right? I think Microsoft does a really, really good job at limiting who can be posting on their app stores for security reasons. Also, like making sure that it is actually adding value to the ecosystem rather than just noise and being yet another thing posted, which we see a bit more on let's say Google Chrome extension store not being as rigorous as the Microsoft store. So we think that they really do a really, really good job at curating what gets posted there and not. And so we're lucky enough, and we've spent quite a bit of time on this, on actually being posted on the Microsoft App Source. So for the people around here that don't know App Source, so App Source, if you may, is like the app store of the Microsoft 365 environment to a certain extent, where people can download different third-party products that are integrated within the Microsoft ecosystem. So if we look, for example, as we're talking again, like we're focused on the Outlook ecosystem. In terms of Microsoft Outlook, there's 1,822 apps. So there is definitely quite a lot of people building here, and it's very amazing companies, right? Such as like Dropbox, YouTube, HubSpot, Zoom, and so on. And so Mail Maestro is currently ranking number 8 globally, which we're very, very proud of. Because I think on one side, like we're happy that we've um, decided to build on top of the Microsoft ecosystem. But second is because we really put a lot of effort in building an outstanding product that fits in well within Outlook, right? And so if you look at it, like we have 4.8 stars, which is like higher than anyone above us. The number of ratings is also like pretty high because we really do spend a lot of time building what we think is one of the best AI products out there. for Outlook. And there's still very big companies behind it, like Calendly, Asana, Google Meet, Cisco, Slack, you name it. So the competition is high, but we're a small startup, right? Like the company is a bit over 2 years old, and my message to the Reactor community is this is definitely something that other people can build for sure, and I would definitely encourage them to do so. So the great thing of being featured on the Microsoft App Stores is that then the applications you build are extremely well integrated with the the Microsoft ecosystem. Right. So I'll quickly show you a demo of how does Mail Maestro work, and um, yeah, it's going to give you an idea of hopefully, and also inspiration in terms of like what are like different workflows and use cases that you could be building for yourself. So let me quickly share my screen once again. Good. So now you should be seeing my email, right? So you should be seeing um, the my Outlook application. And so what MailMeister does, again, as mentioned, is because you're able to download it on App Stores, it means that it will live here on the sidebar and that we really can build amazing experiences within the sidebar. And we can connect to everything that is here. Right? So, for example, in this case, what we do using AI, right, is someone is trying to schedule a meeting with me. Isma is trying to schedule a meeting with me. She tells me like, hey, these are 3 different slots when I'm available. I'm based in CET times, right? So for me, let's say in the past, what you had to do was, okay, now I need to look at like what's the time difference between Central European time and with Singapore, where I'm currently at. I would then have to look if there's like daylight savings time or not at this point in time, check my calendar, go back and forth between the email and the calendar to find the right slots. And so MailMaster uses AI to do exactly that. So on one side, what we do is MailMaster will identify that I'm currently based in Singapore and that Isme is in Central European time zone. So that's why 3 p.m. in Europe is actually 10 p.m. in Singapore. It will also connect with my calendar and understand whether I'm available or not. Right. So for example, in this case, you can see it's green, which I'm available. This one I'm not available, and I can actually look have a call with Jeff Bezos. So that one, unfortunately, I cannot move around. And then the third part is you can just click, and it will draft an email confirming to Ismeria that I'm available for the November 18th at 3 p.m. CT. Right. So what is it that we built is actually built on top of Microsoft Azure OpenAI, and we're using LLMs in the background to do this, as well as other machine learning models. But the idea is we build an experience that doesn't require you to write prompts and so on. It just requires you to use clicks, which is a user interface that is just so much more natural for any, let's say, user, because that's what they've been used to for so many, many years of using apps, of using websites like Airbnb and so on. Like writing good prompts is something that actually takes a lot of time. So here we have our answer. You can just click on paste to Outlook and it's there. And then you could add more people and just send it. But just to come back, the idea is you can build very, very cool experiences using AI in a very native manner. Additionally, we do a lot of other stuff. So for example, you'll have like some long email thread. We'll just give you what's the, let's say, 3-sentence summary for it, right? And in this case, it's all about whether we have headcount to offer, make an offer to Thea. So it's like, could we confirm we have headcount available this quarter, or if we should wait until Q1 2025? And so here with rapid replies, what it does is it will take all of the context of the email, right? And give you different options, right? So if I want to confirm, then I can do it, and it will draft an email confirming that we can do it. If it's not, right, it will actually say that we should wait for the next one, right? And what's interesting is we are actually um, writing a full email, right? So when we see a lot of the, let's say, current process of, let's say, on LinkedIn or so on, or like even on your phone with autocomplete or auto suggestions, it'll just be 3 words, right? It's like, sounds great, thanks. While depending on who you're talking to and the structure, as you can see here, it's always very structured, right? Like, hi, Martin, best Adrian, hi, Adrian, and so on. And so I need to use the same formality that you use over email. And that's what we achieve with just one click, right? So for example, in this case, it's, hi, Martin, we should wait until Q1 2025 to extend the offer to P as we currently don't have headcount available this quarter, right? And we can actually write it in like a bunch of different ways because it's not about like what you say, but like how do you want to say it. And so providing your users with different options is something that really, really helps drive adoption of your product, helps the user get to what is that they want to say much, much faster. And all of this, once again, right, it's built on top of, let's say, the Microsoft add-ons experience. There's also Microsoft apps that is slightly different, but also allows for really good integrations. The way that people can download it is very simple, right? So like they can just come here and do get add-ins, and they'll get the add-ins store where they can search for your product. And so it's very intuitive and it's very well built within the Microsoft experience. And if we would have ever built something that is, let's say, outside of the experience, um, where people need to, let's say, connect to a new website or like download a new app, it gets really tricky for several reasons, right? So one of them is some corporations will not allow people to use third parties that are accessing your email and so on. And so the fact that we build on top of Microsoft really provides a lot of assurance to the to the corporations. The second one is when it comes to friction. Asking people to start using a new tool is actually very, very high in terms of friction. Mostly like the larger the companies get, they already have so many different tools, and onboarding new people takes so long because you need to tell them about like, oh, this is the tool that we use for emails. Most of our communication happens on Teams. By the way, this is what we do use Loop for. You can use this tool for podcasts. You can use this other tool for our CRM and so on. And so there really is an overload in terms of tools. And so if there's any way that you can build on top of an existing platform and making it easily accessible so that people don't need to change their behavior, you can actually drive a ton of adoption. So I very often joke because actually one of our clients told us, right? For them, every single morning is the same thing. Is they'll get to the office and they'll do 2 things. They'll go make themselves a cup of coffee and open their Outlook. And they've been doing that for the past 20 years. And so it's very hard for them to do anything else other than that because it's so hardwired into their routine. Uh, and so that's why we really recommend people to explore a bit more the Microsoft environment and what type of apps you can do there. I'm happy to go a bit further in terms of how then you can think about like user experience. And as we mentioned, like we already do a lot of things with AI, right? So we are integrated into the, let's say, Microsoft OpenAI Azure OpenAI APIs, which then you get amazing value for it because it's pretty much the same models that you would get from ChatGPT. And if you're able to provide the right data and the right context, that's what you're getting through being able to access the Microsoft data, then you can really build very, very impressive experiences. I'll quickly show you a few more um, things that we build in terms of how do we think about it from a user experience perspective, and also um, s- sometimes building features that are not necessarily AI related, but that can really help people be much more efficient. And so all of this comes through the customer discovery, right? Which is talk to your customers. Like you'll start getting a few users downloading your product, reach out to them, whether it's via LinkedIn or if you have, by any chance, a way of reaching out to them through your product and so on. Do so. Really, that's the best way of building the best products nowadays, is really having a very tight loop with your customers, and they will give you really good ideas in terms of like what is it that you should be building or what is it that you should not be building. So, for example, we realized that for certain applications, for certain roles, they need to be a bit more um, let's say they're doing the same task over and over again, right? So for example, I'm going to have to draft an email from scratch, let's say to Isabel, right? And so here I can do stuff. And here's where you actually are using prompts. Say like, thank her for the podcast. And then you can do something like share Mail Maestro blurb and my calendar for next week. Right? And so you can see here, I'm just like drafting like 2 sentences, maybe 10 words. I could draft it in different languages, which has been like one of our strongest use cases, where some people might not be super fluent in English or their work language. And so they end up drafting the prompts in their own language and then selecting a different output prompt. And we really do have over 20 languages. These are just the ones that I use on a more recurring basis. Then you can select the tone for it to sound uh, like as formal or as casual as you would like. And also like the length of the message, right? Depending who you're talking to, the circumstances, you might want to adapt these things. So all of these things are impacting, let's say, the prompts behind it, but they have been built in a way that is very user intuitive, just by clicking on different buttons. And the second thing is here, Mail Maestro's AI actually can learn from, you can train it to learn about your business and so on, right? So it will know that MM stands for Mail Maestro. It will have learned what the Mail Maestro blurb is because we've sent it a few times, and also knows what is my calendar. And right? So I can click on write. And so it's, hi, Isabel. Thanks a bunch for having me on the podcast. I really enjoyed our conversation. In case you want to learn more about Mail Maestro, here's a quick overview. Right? And so like it shows all of these things. It'll put the link to my calendar out there. And so this is, let's say, the email that I keep on sending very, very often. And so I went from writing, uh, whatever, like 12 words to an email that's very well drafted and that I would have normally have to either go to my sent folder and or put it on OneNote and copy paste it every single time. So I'm just saving so much time by doing this. And what you can also do with MailMaster is you can decide to like iterate on it. So you can, let's say, select this specific section, right? And I would say like make it a short paragraph, right? So instead of being bullet points, I want it to be in a different format, right? And so then I can use this version, and it will change the format of it. You can decide to make it shorter. You have so many different options on what is that you want to do. You can also change the tone for it, and it'll just do it very, very quickly, right? And you can always replace it. So once again, this is all about user experience. How do you make it very, very simple for people to actually iterate on the drafts that you make and help them drive productivity. And finally, I would say like one final use case is some days you might not want, let's say, the AI to come up with different ways of doing it, and you want it to be always the same. And so that's where we built templates, where, for example, like you want to get a character reference, right? So let's say I want to ask the manager is called Maria, and we want to get information on, let's say, Joe Salazar, for example. And so in this case, he'll draft an email to Maria, and I'm just going to post it here so you can read it, right? Like, hi, Maria, I'm reaching out to request your assistance with providing character for references for Joe Salazar, who we're considering for a role at Mail Maestro. And so here are going to be like the typical 5 questions that we're sending them. And so once again, right, this is something that our HR team needs to be sending like several times a week. And you don't want to make this mistake of like copy pasting the email and forgetting to change the name of the candidate and so on. And so building these type of experiences really help you improve the user experience, reducing the time that's spent on it, driving productivity all the way up, as well as reducing the chances of mistakes, right? Because those mistakes, you feel very stupid and very apologetic, and yeah, you think technology allows us to do better than this too, nowadays. Great. I think that's like we're about to hit time. So that's more or less like a very big overview in terms of like what can you do with Mail Maestro, how we've built it within the Microsoft ecosystem, leveraging App Source as well as Azure OpenAI. And if there's any questions, I'd be super happy to answer them.
Thank you, Adrian. I actually do have a question because, well, first of all, I think this session that you are running right now has been incredibly insightful. But my question for you is if you could maybe talk to us about how or what the development process was and the challenges you faced when you thought about this, Mail Maestro.
I mean, I think there's challenges every single day, right? And they happen at all levels. So, say like sometimes it's just learning how to build the Microsoft way, right? So whenever you're building and interacting with the Microsoft environment, there's just like a specific type of way that you need to build. I would say it does take a while to get it, but I think it's for the right reasons, right? Because they really put a lot of effort into security, into compliance, to governance, into all of these different things. And so I'd say once you get a hold of it, you really can start like building a lot of products very, very quickly. I would say so. I think that was one. Yeah, challenges happen. I would say
Yeah.
every day. But I think we have a really good team, right? And I think we have a team of very big problem solvers. So I would say we very often say like this is not an issue or a challenge. We always like frame it as an opportunity, right? Like we know that if we're hitting this, other people are going to be hitting this, and us being able to, let's say, jump over this wall or like break through this wall is really going to make a huge difference. Whether it's either building a moat for your company or actually like really unlocking the next level of value experience for your users.
Yeah. And actually, you mentioned something about, making sure that it is as user friendly as possible. But
Yeah.
when it comes to, maybe the open AI and all of that, have you received any feedback from people maybe being like, hey, this would be good if, maybe the app could do something like this? What's been the most recent thing you've received from people?
So I mean, I think the scheduling feature was a very, very big one,
Yeah.
where people told us, hey, 15% of my emails are trying to find the right time. Whether I don't
Agreed.
know if you, which is what we've been doing, right, Isabel? Like it was like, hey, can you do this time at this time? It's like, no, sorry. And you're talking to me in Australian hours, right? And like I was in the US at the time. And so for me, it was just made it so simple to just have to
Yeah.
look and like, is it green or red? Um, so so that one is one that
Mhm.
really came from, I would say, like the
Yeah.
users. And we've built like what we call like a super user board. So there's a few users that really
Yeah.
use our product a lot, and with whom we have like calls every few months, and we tell them like, hey, you're using it a lot. What is missing? What emails are you not using MailMaster for, and why? And that really
Yeah.
unlocks a lot of like new ideas.
Oh, That is impressive. And listen, I think someone commented actually. Yeah, someone said I get overwhelmed by emails and the pile keeps growing and growing. I could relate to that comment. Especially, surely a lot of you guys were also on holiday recently, but I came back to 300 emails, and what you said, Adrian, at the beginning, people, we either don't have the time for it or we're just skimming through. So honestly, I think the scheduling feature, I need to get on that. But actually, we have one question, and I'll just pop it in here. So, testing with Gmail now. How will this be different to Copilot for Outlook? Or will they work side by side?
Yeah, very good question. First of all, thank you very much for testing the product. We appreciate it. Please send us your thoughts on what you like it and if there's anything we can do better. In terms of like how do we think about Copilot in MailMaestro, I would say Copilot is really just a broader thing, right? Like it'll work on Loop, it'll work on Excel, work on PowerPoint, and so on, right? So it's really a tool to help you across all your Microsoft environment. MailMaestro is really focused for like the email power users, right? So if you're spending most of your time on email, then I would say like we go like much deeper than what Copilot on Outlook is doing at the moment, just for a reason of like a focus, right? And I think Microsoft thinks more about like how do you elevate the experience across the board, and we just go super deep into this one. So like that's a bit like how we think about it. And I would say like there's going to be a lot of people in the organization where it's not like a problem, right? So like to be transparent, we've noticed in some organizations, engineers don't write a lot of emails, right? Like they'll be having most of their communications on Slack, on Jira, on Confluence, on Teams, right? But like emails is more like, oh, external facing, right? People that are not part of my organization, while Teams are going to be a bit more, let's say, internal, right? Like you want to talk to your colleagues, you want to get a quick answer. Let's discuss it on Teams. So for us, those were like very strong realizations of realizing, like we're not going to be everyone's, like not everyone is our customer, but that's okay, right? If you're writing a lot of emails, then we're the right tool for you. Otherwise, we'll probably at some point, hopefully we're big enough that we can support more and more people. But I would say at the moment, that's what we've been focusing on.
I think your answer to that question is honestly was the perfect bridge for this next question, actually, because, and I will add it on the screen. Hi, Adrian, great AI app. I heard many people are using it now. So what's new in MailMaestro for 2025?
Yeah, great question. So there's going to be like a few very big announcements soon. Some that I cannot disclose, so I would just recommend you to follow us on LinkedIn so you can see them. But there's some that we can share that are coming soon. So I would say we have a priority inbox feature that we recently released, which is exactly the use case that Isabel was sharing, right? You come back from holidays, you have 300 emails, you just click on one button, and what it does is like it literally will scan through all of them and be like, hey, these are the 7 or 10 emails that are very important for you to be aware of.
Oh my gosh.
And then all the rest you can get to whenever you have to, right? But just helping you focus, because we realize it's just overwhelming, right? Like you keep on looking to the bubble that says 300 plus, you're like, I'm never going to get through it. And then you look to like the list and like you have like 12 emails and you don't really know which one to focus on. And so being able to just show you like, hey, these are the 7. And then you get to like just work on those 7, and then you can go to the rest. But at least you focus on the things that are going to be driving most impact. So priority inbox is a very big one. Second is we really are looking at how the AI can learn more and more about you, right? So we just shared, right, like how it learns the MailMaestro blurb, or how you can train it to learn the blurb, how you can train it to learn your calendar, and so on. But I would say like the next layer is understanding a bit different dynamics, right? So this is an external partner. I speak to them in a more formal tone, right? This is Isabel, who I talk to every single day, so I'm much more casual and direct, right? I might not need to say, "Dear Isabel," like, "Hey, what's up?" It can be a lot more informal. So I think there's something around that. There's also things around voice that we're very interested in. So can you start talking to it rather than having to type? Because again, we really keep
No.
on thinking, oh, yeah, that one's, yeah, it's really cool.
That is incredible. Again, Adrian, I feel like us and the audience, we're connected because I wanted to ask you, you guys are on top of AI supportive emails and this industry, and I wanted to ask you if you see any upcoming trends in this maybe not 2025 but in the next couple of years, or something that you've noticed that is happening in the industry that we could potentially see maybe.
Yeah, definitely. So I would say voice is definitely something that is happening faster and faster. I would say like adoption is happening more and more. Mostly with people working remotely. We definitely see
Yeah.
people wanting that. It also changes a bit the way that, because there's these like very interesting things, which is if I need to type, my brain is kind of processing the information, filtering it, and then writing it, right? Which is kind of slow. But if you're speaking, and mostly with LLMs, they understand so much, you can just like write a super long blurb, right? Like you could actually speak for, I don't know, 30 seconds, which might be writing, I don't know, 4 or 5 paragraphs. But the
Yeah.
LLM will still get you the output that you want, right? So I think it's going to be just like a different way of doing things. So voice is number one. Second is, I think agents will become a thing, right? I think Microsoft is doing some interesting stuff there.
Yeah.
And I think that one is going to be moving at 2 different speeds, right? So like we think a lot about it internally, right? Like what would an agent look like for email? And so you could create, let's say, a scheduling assistant agent where you don't even need to look at it. Like it'll just answer on your behalf and saying, "Hi, Isabel, these are the 3 slots Adrian is available." And they're like, "Oh, sorry, none of them work." And I'll be like, "Okay, let me look for next week," and send you another
Mm.
email with 3. And they're like, "Oh, this one works," and like creates a calendar invite, adds you, and all of those things. So that's something that we can definitely, let's say, do when it's going to come soon. I think the challenge with agentic is 2 parts. One of them is giving away control is always scary for users, right? This idea of like, what if the assistant gets it wrong, right? And like schedule
Mm.
something during my holidays or
Yeah.
double books me or, and so people feel a bit like concerned about that one. So I think it's going to take a bit longer in the adoption, but I would say like the technology capabilities are definitely there. And the second side of it is AI and all of these LLMs are more of a probabilistic technology, right? Meaning you ask an AI the same question, I'll give you 2 different answers in the same direction, but in 2 different ways. But very often when you think about agents, you want agents that are saying exactly the same thing or doing exactly the same thing in the exact same way every single time, right? And
Mhm.
so that's where it kind of gets a bit tricky to actually build these things. But I think it's going to come. Like it's coming 100%. So I would say these are like the 2 big things: voice and agents becoming much more
Yeah.
part of the day-to-day things.
Or like someone said, what about generating images? Do you think that's coming in the future?
That's a really interesting one. I mean, technologically we can, right? The question, this is coming back to the customer and the user, is how many emails are you writing where you actually need to add an image for it? And
Yeah.
I would say at the moment not super super high. So, but we've been playing a bit around it, and like at the end of the year you'll probably be able to test it. But this idea of, can we summarize your inbox within an image, right? Like how does
Yeah.
it feel? Like does it seem like a vacation on the beach, or like, are you climbing Mount Everest? Like, can you kind of like try to assess the energy and so on? So things like
Yeah.
that, more on the creative side.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I mean, all of your answers have been fantastic. To our viewers at home, we're just reaching out. If you guys have any more questions, I think Adrian here is, he's very willing to answer. We've had fantastic questions so far, and even me. I mean, I'm in the office, and I couldn't even focus on anything else. Adrian, I think your presentation about Mail Maestro was fantastic. I think, like you said, when it comes to products like this, I think in my head something very important is that they can be as user friendly as possible. And by the looks of it, I think you've created a great product, and something that honestly I need to get on that on the priority email, especially because I still have a lot of emails to get back to. So this is great. Thank you so much, Adrian. That was fantastic. But yeah, like we said, if anyone else has any questions, we still have a couple more minutes. Otherwise, we might wrap up the session. So let's see.
And I would encourage everyone to, sorry, Isabel, like, please connect with me on LinkedIn. And also the Mail Maestro page, and feel free to send us feedback, right? Like, this is the reason why we build let's say, the best products, is because we really spend a lot of time speaking to and listening to customers. And so, yes, I know we don't know each other most, but still send me your ideas. They might make it into the product soon.
There you go. You heard it here first, guys. Well, it looks like we don't have any more questions for our audience. So in that case, we might wrap up the session. But again, thank you so much, Adrian, for this fantastic, in-depth explanation of what Mail Maestro is and how you guys, work to make sure that this product is incredible. And to our viewers at home, if you guys happen to miss any part of this live stream, like I mentioned at the beginning, this will be available on the Reactor YouTube channel after we finalize the live stream. So just going through the chat one last time in case anyone else has any questions. Let's see. It looks like we don't have any more questions. So in that case, Adrian, is there anything else you would like to share with us before we finish the live stream?
No, thank you very much, Isabel, for hosting us. And thanks, Microsoft, for being such an amazing partner in helping us build really, really cool experiences on top of your products. It's been a pleasure, and we really look forward to like a very strong partnership going forward.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much. And thank you, guys. This live stream has now come to an end. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a lovely rest of your day.